weighted calisthenics. We all love them. The algorithm certainly loves weighted calisthenics. They, for some reason, really love shirtless weighted pull-up videos. Some people are good at them, some people aren't, and some people are just stuck and want to be better. It's an enigma, I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of weighted calisthenics enthusiasts have a lot of the same problems with progressing their weighted calisthenics. And that's what I want to talk about today, just breaking a lot of those principles down Barney style so that you can apply them to your training. So first and foremost, you have to understand what a training max is. And this is gonna kind of piggyback off my Zod protocol video where I talk about the use of training maxes. If you're using something like a training max to calculate or predict, what you should be able to do for 3 or 5 or 8 reps, you're not using a 100%, summoning demons, caffeine high, 1 rep max. You're doing something that you could lift for a really decent single any day of the week. What that's going to ensure is that when you program based off of that, when you have bad days, you're still going to be able to do, say, 5 reps at 80% or 5 reps at 85%. Much the same, if you're having a really good day, you're going to be able to do 5 reps easily or more than 5 reps. It's something that I wanted to elaborate on that I didn't touch on in that video. That's going to apply to your weighted calisthenics training as well, because that's going to play into how I'm going to tell you to program it. It's very simple. You have one heavier set that you're going to do before your lighter sets where you're going to do more volume. It's very important, and what I found is very effective weighted calisthenics training. I talked about this in the video that I posted last week, but it has a very strong post-activation potentiation effect. That's nerd for you lift heavy to make lightweight lighter. That's the caveman explanation of that. It's very effective for weighted calisthenics, probably because you're manipulating your own body weight. Most of us have watched Dragon Ball Z, right? So just think about it this way. Goku, when he has the weighted, gi on and he's on 100 times gravity and he trains with that, once he takes it off, suddenly he starts disappearing and nobody can see him while he fights anymore because he's so much faster. It's really what I want you to think about with your top set and your back off set. So you could call this the Goku protocol. I'm not going to put that in the title, but if you wanted to, for some reason, tag me on Instagram saying I'm doing something that Bald Omni-Man told me to do, you can call it the Goku gravity protocol or something like that. Just something where, we could recognize it for the meme. But you do that top set, and it's going to be a heavy set of like 3, 5. I really wouldn't go too much lighter than that, so I wouldn't do 8s. You can maybe do 8s. I wouldn't go much heavier than 8s for this specifically. Just because you're saving that higher rep work for your back downs. You're doing the high rep exercise to make sure that you're pushing the strength forward, right? Your back down sets are where you're getting most of your volume from. That is really the same as what you would do with a barbell lift, to be quite honest with you. Power lifters love top sets and they love their back downs. You want to look at your weighted calisthenics kind of the same way. So that doesn't mean, for example, if your best set of 3 with a weighted pull-up is with, like 70 pounds, that doesn't mean trying to work out with 70 pounds. And that doesn't mean just working out with your body weight either, just to try to accumulate reps that way, because that is a common mistake that I find with people who are sort of, in the middle of the pack in terms of weighted calisthenics strength. You're working with like a little over a plate for reps, and you just think automatically that, okay, I can only do this much for 3 reps. I need to still be working out with body weight and working in that capacity and do things like archer pull-ups or longer pauses or slower tempos with body weight. You can do that, but it's so much more efficient, guys, and this is going to blow your minds. Add your body weight to the maximum amount of weight that you could do and take a percentage of that, and then subtract your body weight from it. That is the most complicated math that I'm ever going to present to you on this channel. But what you're doing is you're doing exactly what you can do with a barbell, but with a weighted calisthenics. So when you subtract your body weight, that is going to infer the amount of weight that you add. So we're going to do some quick math actually. I'm going to pull up the calculator and give an example, just because for some people the abstract stuff doesn't really do it for them, and we're going to give you a tangible example. So let's just say you weigh 200 pounds, you're a nice sized dude, and you can do like a 1 rep max with 70 pounds added. So you add 70 pounds to 200, and by my calculation, that comes to 270. Let's just say you wanted to do a decent set of 5. A decent set of 5 that isn't an all-out 1 rep max grinder, like a 5 rep max grinder, is gonna be around 82%. So you take 270, you times it by 0.82, 270 times 0.82, it gives you 221.4. You're gonna take 220. Well, you can do 222.5 because you can use 2.5 pound plates. 222.5, and that's gonna be roughly the weight that you're gonna use. You're like, well, wait, I can't do 222.5 pounds. What do I do with this? Well, guys, you just subtract your body weight from it. And that tells you that you need to add 22.5 pounds to do your rep work with for a decent set of 5 if your 1 rep max is with 70 pounds added. And that might not seem like a whole lot of weight added, guys, but you have to take into account you have 200 extra pounds that you're lifting there. That alone is going to make your weighted calisthenics training make a whole lot more sense, and it's going to allow you a lot more flexibility in training in different rep ranges and adding weight when you're in that middle of the pack. Now, you might be someone that can't even add a whole lot of weight. Well, it's the same thing. This is going to require you going to a gym, but there's an assisted pull-up exercise. It would be like the same thing in reverse. So let's just say, we'll give another tangible example. And this math is my first time doing it for subtracting body weight to do the same thing. It's so easy, even I could do it with no preparation. So let's just say the same thing. You can do 1 pull-up with body weight, and you weigh 200 pounds, and that's your 1 rep max. And you need to do a good set of 5. So you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna multiply 200 by 0.82, because we've already established that 82% is a decent set of 5. It's hard, but it's not a 5 rep max. It gives you 165 basically. You subtract 200 minus 165, it gives you 35 pounds. You're gonna go on that assisted pull-up machine and you're gonna go 35 pounds assistance. That's the amount that you need to be able to do a decent set of 5. Now, that could even work out if you know the approximate band tensions. Like if you have a set of bands or something and you know, like, these light bands are 35 pounds of tension, and you know, roughly I can do 5 reps if I use this one. Same thing, if you really just don't have access to an assisted pull-up machine. If you do, just use that because it's easier. You don't have to guess, you don't have to Google stuff, you just can do the caveman math that I could do even with 0 preparation. Now that's going to be the first thing. That's just generally how you program it. I hope that makes sense. It better make sense because I'm a caveman and I just did the math before your very eyes. Now, where do you put it in your training program if you're someone that likes weighted calisthenics, but you also like training barbell movements, specifically the big 3? Guys, we're on social media. People care about how much you squat, bench, and deadlift. It just is what it is. So a lot of you are doing it just simply because of that. Not because you really want to, but because it's just what everybody does. You have to think, you know, I call it the cost and benefit analysis, or the needs versus wants analysis. What do you get from something versus what it takes from you? You have to think about that when you start including weighted calisthenics. Now, weighted dips can fit very well into a powerlifting style program, right? You know, even where you're a faux powerlifter, you don't actually compete in anything, but you do squat, bench, and deadlift. Dips can be very useful for someone that just needs to accumulate more upper body mass, because bigger bench presses come from more muscle mass. Proportionately, out of any of the big 3 movements, bench press responds most to more muscle mass. Weighted pull-ups don't quite offer the same benefit. Now, they do give you a bigger back, and a bigger back helps bench press, it helps squat, it helps deadlift. But for what it does for you, it takes away a little bit more for getting better at squat, bench, and deadlift. There's 2 ways that you could circumvent that. One, you could just do them very sub-maximally, or you could train them for strength like we just talked about, and then just expand your training week. Guys, I do a 9-day training week to accommodate for things like this. Once you free yourself from the confines of a 7-day training week, it allows you to do more things with your training because you have more time to rest, so you can make each session more fatiguing and still recover from it. For example, the other day I just talked about doing weighted pull-ups directly after deadlifts. If you're a power lifter, that is stupid. If you're doing that, if your coach prescribes that to you and you're in a powerlifting prep, fire them. That's stupid. Because in a powerlifting prep, you have a certain amount of weeks that you need to be able to program a certain amount of squat, bench, and deadlift workouts into. You can't really do set 9-day training splits. But if you're training for recreational strength, that's something that you can do because you're not confined by 7 days, you see? Same will work if you're in an off season. Now, in terms of weighted push-ups, if you're interested in that, it's kind of the same thing. The only thing that you have to keep into account there is you want to be honest with where you're putting the load at so that you can do the calculations accurately. If you're putting the weight and like, okay, so just imagine if I was, you're looking at me from my back down. So like if I was turned around. And I'm not going to actually do that because I still need to talk to you guys. So say this is like the middle of my back, right? Don't put the weights here and then make the calculation because you're inflating it. It's like a foot and a half, 2.5 feet away from where your upper body pressing muscles are applying pressure from. You want to put that load as close so your upper body musculature as possible. So really that's going to look like the weight being on your neck ideally, like halfway on your neck, halfway on your traps. Then you make the same calculations that we just did. Let's just say you can do 100 pounds for 5 reps. All right, you add that together with your body weight. Don't go into like multiplying it by a 7.72 to account for like, oh, well, you don't lift 100% of your body weight on a push-up. Make the math easy just for your log books and do it the exact same way you would do it for dips and pull-ups. Now, in terms of where I would put dips, because we talked about pull-ups and the solution with that is you just have to increase your training week. If you want to add dips to your powerlifting style training, what I always say is that you have your primary days, your secondary, tertiary, and so on. Moving on into quaternary, whatever the fuck 5 would be after that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the term for that because I'm illiterate. But you want to put those dips on the day that you're applying the most fatigue to your upper body pressing musculature. This is something that people kind of let get away from them because it doesn't end up being, okay, here's my primary session that's most fatiguing, here's my secondary session that is less fatiguing. It ends up being 2 primary sessions because you're just beating the crap out of yourself on both days. The purpose of differentiating between primary and secondary is so that you can work on 2 separate types of goals, right? So on your primary day, if you're trying to do bench press on a primary day, it's to fatigue your upper body musculature, work on the most bench pressing volume at the highest intensity, and your goal is to increase those things. On a secondary day, that's really just supplementary volume where you're using things like it might be an incline bench, it might be something like a dumbbell bench press, it might be something like a whatever. Since you're wanting to train that weighted dip for strength, you want to train it when you're freshest, not on your secondary day where you're weaker from doing your primary day. So you're going to put that weighted dip session in your primary bench session. You're going to do your bench work first. You're going to do a back exercise, so give your pressing musculature rest, and then you're going to follow that top set, back offset thing for your weighted dips. You can apply the same thing to weighted pull-ups. Do that at your own risk. I've had overuse injuries from doing that alongside heavy lower body training. I'm pretty sure, there are others that will tell you the same thing. Like, yeah, you can do it for a time, but if you're going to do weighted pull-ups, in my opinion, you're going to want to open up your training calendar for 9 days and then just program that accordingly. The reason why you don't put that weighted dip session on the secondary day, like I said, is because weighted dips, although they are less fatiguing than bench press, in my opinion, are still a big, heavy compound movement. How are you going to possibly be maximally recovered to hit your primary session again if you're doing essentially what is another primary session, it doesn't make sense, and that's where people kind of lose the plot with that. So that's how you can apply strength training, powerlifting style principles to weighted calisthenics training. Different things that you want to just caution against in terms of, you know, scheduling your exercises so that you can still recover and still progress on them. I hope this has been helpful. I really like weighted calisthenics myself. If you have any questions down below, please let me know. I'll see y'all later.